dear participants, a very warm welcome to this second session of this ongoing FDP. So I'm the co-coordinator of this course along with Dr. Amandeep, and I will be taking up one session on MOOCs in this particular session. Firstly, let me just open up my PPT and then we'll discuss further. Before that, I would just like to give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Dr. Ritula Thakur, and I'm working as Associate Professor in Electrical Engineering Department in NITTTR Chandigarh. And my journey in NITTTR began in the year 2006. I joined in May 2006. And before that, I had a work experience of about 2 years in private engineering colleges also. I'm a core electrical engineering person and my specialization is smart grid. But at the same time, being in NITTTR, we are also associated with these kind of programs. And because this particular session is about MOOCs, how to develop a MOOCs program and what is the relevance or role of learner-centric MOOCs in higher education system. So why I have chosen this particular topic is because I have had the privilege of coordinating about 3 MOOCs courses by now. So in the year 2018, there was a scheme started by AICT, which was called ARPIT scheme. So under that ARPIT scheme, I had the chance to develop an MOOCs course on uh, uh, real-time power system analysis and smart grid. And next year in 2019, I developed a MOOCs course on big data analytics for smart grid, which was rerun in the year 2020. And after that, the ARPIT scheme was closed. So this year, I have developed a MOOCs course on PLC and microcontrollers in Hindi language. So it is one of the first kind of course in Hindi language because as you must be knowing that NEP, our national education policy, is putting lot of stress on the role of regional languages in our education system. So AICT is promoting development of regional languages, books, and online videos. So I had developed one course on PLC and microcontroller in Hindi language. So in today's session, I will be showing you a glimpse of that also. So as I said, my topic for today's session is role of learner-centric MOOCs in technical education. So I've already told you why I have chosen this particular topic. So what all I'm going to cover in today's session is, firstly, we will discuss what exactly is MOOCs. I believe most of you are teachers and I hope that most of you must have heard about this word MOOCs by now. But then still, I will be telling in the context of this particular session, I'll be giving a brief introduction about what basically MOOCs is, history of development of MOOCs, and then we will see the Swayam platform, which is a platform developed by MHRD for online learning. And then I will be showing you my MOOCs program, both as a learner point of view as well as when you have developed a MOOCs program, how it looks like. And finally, in the end, although I have not used that particular platform, but for your context, I'll be explaining how you can develop a MOOCs on your own by using an online software. So these all are going to be the sessions for today's topic. So please feel free to interrupt me in between in case you have any difficulty or you want to ask any question. You can just because if you raise your hand, I won't be able to know because I'm in the PPT mode. So you can just unmute yourself and you can ask me the question. Okay. So let me just start now. Well, very first question is, what is MOOCs? MOOCs is MOOCs, Massive Open Online Course. So we will be seeing these definitions one by one. So what are these basically? According to Wikipedia, the official definition is MOOCs is an online course which is aimed at unlimited participation and open access via the web. So you see, all of you right now are sitting at various parts of India, and even MOOCs, it transcends the boundaries of the countries as well. Anyone, anywhere in the world can access this education. So we don't have those physical boundaries. That is what the concept of MOOCs is all about. So now let us see all these terms one by one. So As I said, that these are the online courses which are designed to offer education to a large number of participants simultaneously. They are typically accessible to anyone, as I said, with an internet connection, making them a popular option for learners around the world. So the very first term is M stands for massive. What does it mean? It means in the context of scale. So MOOCs are designed to accommodate a large number of learners without limitations of traditional classroom setting. So as I told you that the very first course which I developed was real-time power system analysis in smart grid. So it had learners around 9,000 learners which had enrolled for that particular course. So you can understand the scale of the number of learners in the MOOCs program, which is not possible in traditional classroom setting. And then, as I earlier said, it mainly relates to global reach. So it allows learners from different countries, different backgrounds, different experiences to participate and benefit from the courses. The second term is open. What does open mean? Massive, open. When we talk about open, one thing is in the context of accessibility. So MOOCs is open to anyone who is interested in learning. So it does not have any prerequisites learning for enrollment. Of course, there are some specialized courses of higher learning. For example, if I'm saying I'm interested in learning a course on microcontrollers, definitely a prerequisite on digital electronics is required for that. But that is from my point of view, from understanding point of view. Otherwise, it is open to anyone. Even a school child, he can learn it. A working professional can learn it. A housewife can learn. Anybody who is interested in learning a topic, it is open to them. There is no prerequisites, or it might be a few, as I said, in case of specialized courses. And then when I talk about open, it also means free or low cost. So many of the MOOCs are offered for free. Some of them, in fact, most of them, they charge a fee for the certification or access to the additional resources. But in case anybody is interested in learning, only learning part, it is free. Only in case you want to give examination for earning the credits, in that case, or you're interested in giving the examination for getting the certification, a nominal fees is required for that because the exam is held by NTA, which is a third party. So otherwise, this is a free course or low cost. The third component is online. What does it mean? Online, it's very implicit, I think. It's based on the digital platform. MOOCs are delivered either entirely online, making them accessible from anywhere at any time, provided the learner has an internet connection. And of course, there are a variety of formats. There are various formats, as we will be discussing them also in the future slides. We have videos, we have e-content, we have quizzes, assignments, we have discussion forums. So this allows for a flexible learning experience. When we will be talking about the four quadrants of the MOOCs, in that case, this variety of formats will be more clear to you. And then the last term is C, which stands for courses. There is the structured learning. So MOOCs offer structured learning paths which are covering specific topics or skills over a set period, similar to the traditional courses. You have a defined curriculum for that particular MOOCs, as I will be showing you also in the coming slides. So like suppose it's an 8-week course, you will be having defined topics which will be covered in week 1, similarly week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, and week 8. Similarly, if it's a 4-week or 8-week course, accordingly you have a structured learning, which is very important, and this is available to the learners before the course is started. The second term which comes under this C courses is the certification. As I said, that many of the MOOCs courses, they offer certificates upon successful completion. So there are some self-paced courses, there are some courses with certification. So those courses which are having certification will be having an examination at the end. So this will be able to, this can be used to demonstrate the knowledge or skills in a particular area. Okay, before we go to the history of MOOCs, I have this habit of interacting with the participants in between. So, can any of the participant tell me what is the full form of MOOCs? Yes. What does M stand for? Because this will let me know that actually there is somebody who is listening. Okay. Mr. Vikrant Yadav has rightly said it is massive. What about others? Right.
Yeah,
So
massive open online
other
courses.
massive
Madam,
open
massive open
online.
online courses.
Thank you so much.
Course.
Thank you for that, because your answers will enable me to understand that yes, there is an audience at the other side. Thank you so much for your answers.
Yeah, madam, you said it's massive learning means even 10,000 or something like can learn at the same time. How
Pardon?
everyone will be evaluated, madam?
Sir,
Massive
can you
learning
please
means you
repeat?
said even 10. Massive learning means you said even 10,000 learners can participate in a course, correct?
Right.
How everyone will be evaluated, madam?
How everyone will be evaluated? Okay,
Yeah,
we will be talking about the evaluation process in the coming slides. I think your question will be answered more clearly that
okay,
when we will be talking
okay,
about the four quadrants of the MOOCs.
okay,
About the evaluation
okay.
part,
Okay.
assessment part, then I will be covering that in detail. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So now coming back, what is the history of MOOCs? In fact, when I was preparing for this particular presentation, I had a chance, I had this curiosity that when did this start, this history, when did this MOOCs course start? So MOOCs was developed for the first time in the year 2008 by George Simmons and Stephen Downes. And earlier it was not called MOOCs, the name was Connectivism and Connective Knowledge 2008, and the short form was CCK08. So it was basically created as a credit course for the University of Manitoba. And this particular course, CCK08, had 25 students who had paid fees for the course, and there were around 2,200 learners who took the course for free. So this is how it started, but it really took off in the year 2012 when Peter Norvig and Sebastian Thrun from Stanford University, they offered the first course on MOOCs that was on Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. So this was actually on a very massive scale. It was accessed by 1,60,000 people from 190 countries. And in fact, this was the largest in the world's history to be viewed as a course. So the first MOOCs course was an introduction to artificial intelligence, and it was then when it was called as MOOCs. Earlier it was called as CCK08. Now, after coming about the brief history of development of MOOCs as well as what is meant by MOOCs, let us understand the Swayam platform, because you must have done courses from Coursera, edX, Udemy, etc. So it was the Swayam in year 2017. It was an initiative by the government of India, which started in July 2017, which was designed to provide free online courses to students, professionals, and lifelong learners across the country. And the full form of Swayam is Study Webs of Active Learning for Young Aspiring Minds. In the coming slides, I will be showing you directly the Swayam platform, and then we will see how you can access the various MOOCs, etc. So now coming to the four quadrants of MOOCs. You see, what is the main difference between MOOCs and a traditional classroom learning? In a traditional classroom learning, you have approximately 45 minutes to 50 minutes of session, right? So what happens in that session? You take, if it's an offline course, you take the 50 minutes offline course, offline lecture, in which you might be taking the help of a PPT, you might be showing them some videos, and some demonstrations might also be there in case it's an online class, just like it is happening now. I'm taking a 1.5 hour session, online session. But this, what happens is that it is a human basic tendency, according to the human psychiatry, that after 20 minutes the human mind keeps on wandering. It might happen howsoever interesting the session may be, but after some time your mind might keep thinking, okay, you might think something else. So what was the main agenda of creating these MOOCs was that in online mode they created basically four quadrants. Now in the coming times, now these four quadrants are, in fact, two more verticals are being added. I'm not going to cover them because that is coming in the near future, but as of now there are four quadrants. So what are these four quadrants? First is the e-content. I will be explaining each point in the coming slide. Second is the e-tutorial. E-tutorial are nothing but the video lectures which are pre-recorded. And then we have assessment, as one of you was asking the question, how will they will be evaluated? If suppose I have 10,000 participants, how do I evaluate these 10,000 participants? So assessment is a very important part of MOOCs, and we have to make sure that right assessment is done so that the certificate is given to the genuine person. And then there is another quadrant which is known as discussion forum. Now, what was the main agenda of creating these four quadrants was that in the e tutorials or the video sessions, okay, as I'm talking about the videos, the first quadrant, the videos or the e-tutorials, we can have a live or pre-recorded videos, which are normally pre-recorded, face cam or off face. Like these are the different terms which are used in media engineering. Like sometimes it might happen that a person's is explaining this video directly to you, only the face of the person is visible. Sometimes the PPT is visible, as in this case. This is happening, you are able to see my PPT. Sometimes the screen recording, suppose there is some software which is there, so some pre-recording is there. But these videos are made of maximum 20 to 25 minutes, not more than that. The main agenda was that the pre-recorded videos should give an overall idea about the topic. These videos do not cover everything in detail. So some of the part, or I can say the main idea of the topic, is given in these videos. And then the other quadrant is the e-content. So some of the portion which is not covered in detail about the video, because as I said, it is giving you the general introduction about the topic. This is covered in the e-content. So what is e-content? E-content might be in the form of PDFs. Suppose I am a MOOCs content developer. So apart from the pre-recorded videos, the topics which I could not cover in the videos, because these are maximum 15 to 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So I make a write-up of that in the form of a PDF, and I give you upload that material, or it can be a Word file, or I can also share my PPT, or it can be a Excel sheet, online links, some study resources I can share with you, that okay, in this particular video, this topic will be covered. For more details, you can read these contents in the form of write-ups, PPTs you can go through, or these are some online links, you can go through them also, or some study resources also. So third component is the assessment or the evaluation, which one of the participant was asking me. So these assessments or evaluations are in fact very important part. Mainly there are MCQs. Assignments can also be a part of the assessment, but suppose you have 10,000 participants. In that case, evaluating the assignment is not very easy task for the MOOCs developer. So mostly in case it's a large number of audience, the quizzes are held in the form of MCQs. So already there is a provision in that whenever you are uploading your quiz, so therein you can give the correct answer, and you have the option that the quiz will be evaluated itself, just like in case of Google form. Right, when we take exam of our students online through our in the COVID, it happened like the students were not giving physical examination, so sometimes in between we used to have some quiz. So in Google form also there is an option that the answer is already given in the Google form, and it automatically evaluates that particular answer, whether it is correct or not. It is your choice whether you want to give the negative marking also. And in the end, when the student submits that quiz, he or she will be able to see his or her marks also based on that. So that is a part of assessment. So that then there can be online presentations, feedback videos, descriptive tests. Although, as I already told you, normally MCQs or quizzes, they form a major portion of assessment or evaluation. Assignments can be given from time to time, but normally evaluation is done mainly of the quizzes, both internal as external. So there are two components of assessment of like evaluation. One is the internal quizzes or internal assessment, and then there is an external assessment. What is internal assessment? This is just like your sessionals. For example, for a particular subject, a student has a sessional. It depends upon university to university. For example, in our institute, what we do is we take 50% of the internal and 50% of the external exam. But in MOOCs on SWAYAM platform, 30% of the weightage is given of the internal quizzes and 70% of the weightage is given of the external exam, which is taken up by NTA, National Testing Agency, and that is also MCQ only. So normally 100 questions are given of 1 mark each, and that is the external component. And internal quizzes, time to time, every week. For example, I have taken up this particular, for the week 1 I have uploaded 1 videos. So the students or the participants, whenever they get time, because these are the pre-recorded videos, these are not online. MOOCs, it's not like what we are having at this moment. In that case, we have pre-recorded videos, and the participants, whenever they get time, maybe they get the time in the evening before sleeping, they might get time in the weekend for that particular week. So they can just, watch those videos, and in the next week, a quiz will be uploaded, because in the first week the participants, they have already undergone through those videos. In the second week, the quiz will be uploaded. For that, then again, depends upon the coordinator. He or she might give you a deadline for that, okay, suppose today is 3rd of September, I have uploaded the quiz today. The deadline for today's the deadline for today's quiz is, let's say, 15 September. So before 15 September, you have to submit the quiz. Otherwise, after that, you will not be able, because this happens many times. Many of the participants, when they are attempting MOOCs for the first time, they do not give much attention to these quizzes. Later on, then they request the coordinator to please open the quiz, which is not possible, because all this is done at a central level. So for those who are planning to enroll for a particular MOOCs, or who are already undergoing through this, please make sure that you attempt your quizzes in time. Because what was happening is, till now, for final evaluation, for those who want a certificate for that, those who are not even giving the exam, they were allowed to appear for the final exam. But now this policy is coming in future, that for those who have not given internal assessment, will not be provided the hall ticket for the, or the admit card for the final exam. So these quizzes, internal quizzes, are very important. So assessment, I hope, sir, I have been able to answer your question. The one of the participant had asked me earlier. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, madam.
Okay. Now the next component is the discussion forum. Sometimes what happens is that, okay, for a particular topic, let's say I have taken one topic on power system, and major overview I have given in my 20 minutes of video. Some of the portion which was not covered in much detail in the video, I have given up in the form of writing, write-up, PDF, e-content. Some of it I have left it for discussion also. So there is a discussion forum, right? So it depends upon the coordinator. The coordinator has the flexibility that he or she can conduct some live sessions also. For example, what I can say is that all of you are, let's say, my MOOCs participants. So I can send you an email announcement that on Saturday morning I will be having a live session on YouTube or on Google Meet, and this is the link for that, or Zoom. And in case you have any discussions which you want to ask me face to face, as you are asking me question now, so you can ask me those questions there. Or else there are also discussion forums wherein the participants, they can post their questions, and everybody has a flexibility of participating in it. Suppose a participant has posted a question, the other participants can also take part in the discussions. They can also give suggestions, or they can, these are mainly as a part of the doubt clearance, or in case you want to ask, okay, this I have learned, what is the next, and all these doubt clearance and all, these will be held up in the discussion forums. So now these were the 4 quadrants. What were these? One is the e-tutorial. E-tutorial is nothing but the videos. Then we have the e-content. E-content is the write-ups, which can be in the various form. It can be a PDF, or it can be a PDF or Word file or others. Then there is an assessment part, which is the evaluation part. And finally, we have the discussion forum. So a topic can be covered not only in a single lecture, but the particular topic can be divided into, you can keep some option open also. It's not like, suppose you have not covered that particular part or subtitle of a topic in the e-tutorial or in the e-content, but you can keep that open in the discussion, so the participants, they can learn more while discussing in the discussion forum. I hope this is clear. Next very important part is the credit transfer. So for those who are aware of the NCRF, National Credit Framework, UGC has already issued the UGC Credit Framework for online learning courses through SWAYAM regulation in 2016, which has advised the universities to identify the courses where credits can be transferred on the academic record of the students for courses done on SWAYAM. So even for faculty also, according to the latest CAS rules, you can enroll through these MOOCs courses which are available on the SWAYAM. You can earn the credits and then they will be given to you as a part of a CAS. And for the students, in case they are undergoing a particular course on the SWAYAM, a MOOCs program on the SWAYAM, which is recognized by the AICTE or UGC, then they can give the examination, they can earn a credit, and those credits will be transferred on the academic record of the students for the courses. Similarly, AICTE also had put out a gazette notification in 2016 subsequently for adoption of these courses for credit transfer. Now these gazette notifications, they change from time to time. Initially when it started, it was like 20% of the courses can be done through online mode or the MOOCs mode. But now recently AICTE has issued that up to 40% of the courses, they can also be done through the MOOCs. So suppose you have about 12 subjects in a particular course. I'm talking about ME, and in your case, you can identify with the program you are teaching. It might be diploma or degree or masters. So out of those total subjects, about 40% of the courses, they can be conducted through SWAYAM. So I hope you all are able to see the SWAYAM website. It is SWAYAM, www.swayam.gov.in. SWAYAM is basically a Sanskrit word. SWAYAM means self. I mean, it's like you can learn the subject yourself, of course, in the online mode. So as I said, SWAYAM is a program initiated by the Government of India and designed to achieve the 3 cardinal principles of education policy: access, equity, and quality. The objective of this effort is to take the best teaching learning resources to all, including the most disadvantaged. SWAYAM seeks to bridge the digital divide for students who have hitherto remained untouched by the digital revolution and have not been able to join the mainstream of the knowledge economy. So as a part of Digital India, this was initiative by MHRD at that time, which is now called as Ministry of Education, Government of India. And there are various national coordinators. There are about 9 national coordinators. In case you are able to see them here, there are total, now they're 10, in fact. Earlier there used to be 9. So they cater to different study groups. For example, for schools, we have different. For colleges, we have different. For teachers, we have different. For management, we have different. So there are total 9. One is AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education. So these are for self-paced and international courses. Then we have NPTEL, a national program on technology enhanced learning, in which we have mainly IIT professors for engineering. Then we also have UGC as a national coordinator for non-technical post-graduation education, CEC, Consortium for Educational Communication for undergraduate education, NCERT for school education. As I told you that we have the audience starting from class 9th till post-graduation. So for school education, we have this NCERT and NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling. So these 2 are for the school education. Then we have IGNOU. IGNOU is for out-of-school students, open university. For management students, we have IIMB, Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, which is mainly looking after management studies. NITTR, National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, our organization, we are our Knitter Chennai sister organization. They are the national coordinators for teacher training programs, and then we have INIs for non-technical courses. These are the various coordinators. So in the website itself, you will be able to see for school education, these are there. Out of school, these are there. Undergraduate and postgraduate, non-technical, and etc. And then I think some of you were also asking about credit transfer, how it happens. So they have very clearly given some guidelines also. So UGC, as I already told you, has already issued. And about they have clearly given this framework also, UGC Gazette credit framework also, and AICT credit framework also, as I was telling you. So let's say I open this AICT. So they have given in this particular document, they have clearly told that how the credits can be transferred, and all these four quadrants very clearly they have given. So normally, I'll tell you, there are about 7 pages which you can read in Hindi and English. Normally what happens is that, similarly, UGC has also issued one credit framework guidelines in their UGC Gazette. Normally, what happens is that how it goes along is that AICT or UGC, whatever, because we are linked with AICT, so I have a list. Maybe I can share with you. I will show you. See, like for this particular year, this is the list of the courses which are approved by Swayam. About in under CEC, we have 176. Under NPTEL, we had 733. Under IGNOU, 215. Under IIMB, 72. UGC 7. AICT 21. NITTR 40 courses. INIs 46. So around 1,310 courses. These are the list of July 2024 semester courses which are approved by the Swayam board, and they share this list. As you can see, these are the various courses also for the upcoming semester. So these are shared by AICT or Swayam board beforehand to all the universities. So what they can do is that they can choose, and as you can see that for each course, the name of the coordinator, the name of the host institute, the number of credits, what is the level, whether it is UG, PG, everything is mentioned there. Even the subject or the discipline is also shared there, course along with the course titles. So at a particular college or university level, they have a local coordinator. For example, there is a Swayam coordinator. He or she, the teacher, it can be a faculty, they can select from this particular list that what is relevant for their particular semester. For example, in semester 1, they have kept the one open they have kept one MOOCs course for the students, which the students will get the credit through the Swayam platform or on a MOOCs program. So they will then tell the students, okay, then you this particular topic, for example, I'm from electrical background, so I have in the first semester we have kept in the area of electric vehicles. So I can just check from this that in electric vehicle what is the course being offered, and then I can tell my student that you start enrolling for this course, and then you give the exam. After the students give the exam, they get the certificate, they will get that credit, and these credits will then be, because it is approved by university, then it will be directly, these credits will be given to the students. So this is how it actually works about. And in coming times, this is becoming compulsory, like MOOCs course, some of the component, because many of you must be going through NBA programs, etc. So some of the component of your curriculum has to be taught through Swayam or MOOCs program. Okay, so this is how the credits will be earned by the students. Now, suppose I am a learner. Now, I will be telling you about this from 2 points of views. One is from the point of view of a learner. Second is, suppose I am a course coordinator. So I will be signing in and showing you from both. Suppose I am a learner. First thing which we have to do is we have to register in the course. I have already registered. So what you can do is you can go here, sign in, register. So if you don't have an account, you have to sign up, because I have already created my account through my Google account. So I will be signing in using my Google account. So It is showing here. It has signed me using my Google account. It is showing me my courses. So if I go to my courses, there are two options under my courses. One is upcoming, other is completed. Because through this account I have already completed, so in upcoming there is no upcoming ongoing courses. However, for completed, it is showing me that these are the two courses which I have already completed. So suppose I want to show you this course, I will go to the course, or else let me show you the other course, because as a coordinator also I will be showing you the same. So let me just go to the second course. Let's say this was the course which I had earlier completed. So it looks like this to a participant. This whole preview which I'm showing to you is from the point of view as of a participant. So there are some announcements which are there. So these are the time to time all the announcements which the coordinator is giving. So these are the various announcements. And on the left side, you can see the course outline also. Then there is a tab on about the course. So there were about 2,280 learners who had enrolled in this course. This is an introductory video. This is very important part of the MOOCs development. I will be telling you about this when I show you my own course, that what all should be covered in this introductory part. And then summary is like it is showing me the course status is completed. Suppose I'm undergoing some course, it will be showing me ongoing. Then it is a core. Duration was 8 weeks. Category was teacher education. There were 2 credit points. Certificate was there, because as I told you, there are two types of courses. One are the self-paced courses. The other are the certificate-based courses. So in this, there was an examination at the end. The start and the end date of the course is to be told by the coordinator. So it was 29 January 2024 and it ended on 30th April 2024, and the enrollment had ended on 19th February. Exam date was also announced beforehand itself, and in the shift one the exam was there. So total study time, because it was a 2 credit course, the total study was 20 hours, which includes everything, the videos, the e-learning material, web sources, etc., everything. So these are the various, suppose this is the first week course online. So these are the videos which you can watch. So you can watch them on YouTube also. And then suppose you have some question regarding this. You're watching this video as a participant or a student. You have a question, you can go to ask a question because this is already complete, so it will not take me. But it will then go to this question and answer section. So this is a Google discussion forum wherein the participants, because it's already closed, but otherwise it's a Google discussion forum wherein the questions are there and the participants then they the coordinator then they answer it. Also you can see the progress here, how much of the unit wise progress, what were the assessment scores. I'll show you the other one, mentor review assignments. So the participant, they can see their progress also here itself. So course progress, unit wise progress, week 1. In my case, what I had done was, this was my course basically. So what I had done was that I had outlined the course as week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, etc. And for each week, the student can see their progress, the lesson progress as well as the assignment progress. This assignment is nothing but the various quizzes. So if you have attempted your quiz, it will show in this form. If you have not attempted a quiz, it will show you in this form. So this will also give you an idea about how you're progressing in the course. And then assessment scores, etc., announcements, discussion forum, etc. All these things are available here. So I hope as a learner, this is clear to you. Suppose I just click on this week 1. So you see, week 1 is a video lecture. So on the left hand side, you have this video lecture on introduction to 8051. So this is the lecture for that. So when you click on this, you can just watch it here itself, or you can go to the YouTube and then you can watch it. And also So this is the e-content, this is a e-tutorial component of the MOOCs. So because this was in Hindi, as I already told you, this course was in Hindi. And apart from that, these are the contents I had developed. So not everything can be covered in the video lecture. So this is a kind of e-content in the form of PDFs I have created. Similarly, there are other topics also. So the students, they can just go through this also. These are in details. And then we have a video lecture. So because I told you that in the first week, the contents are covered. And in the second week, this was my second week, that was on programming languages of 8051. So there we have this video lecture. It's taking some time to load. Then also we have this quiz here, right? So this quiz is pertaining to week 1, and that is how it in future, like week 3, week 4, week 5, etc. All these things, they are covered here. So now I will just show you how to, this was from a student point of view. Now I will show you as a coordinator point of view, say, how I can navigate through my. So this is the account which I have for as a coordinator. This was provided to me by Swayam itself. So I have to log in first, Google account, and then I will click www.swayam. So again, sign in, because now I am signing in as coordinator. It will show me in a bit different way. So this is, I have logged in, go to my courses. Because this course is already going on. This is a rerun course which started in the month of July. So that's why it is now showing it in upcoming ongoing course. I'll just go to the course.
How to become coordinator?
I'll tell you that also. So this is the page, how it looks like. It is quite similar to how it looked to the participants also. So here on the left hand side, there's a course outline, week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. And this is about the course. This course is designed in Hindi language to help learners gain valuable skills and knowledge in the field of programmable logic controllers that may help them to apply their skills. And this is that 3-minute video. And here about the coordinator, some photograph and a brief biodata of the coordinator, so that the participants, they can just go through this to know more about the coordinator. And then we also have like what is the course type, undergraduate level course layout. So this course layout is nothing but the objectives of the course. After completion of the course, the participants will be able to describe the architecture of microcontrollers, write and debug programs in embedded C language, design and implement embedded systems using microcontrollers, understand basics of PLC, program PLC. Apart from that, I have also given course layout in detail, like week 1, this is the title, these are the topics which will be covered, week 2, week 3, like detailed topics. So it depends upon the coordinator. Like in my case, I always prefer to tell my participants beforehand what they are going to learn in detail, like in week 1 what will be covered, because it's not like you start the MOOC and then self you are planning. This has to be done beforehand. For example, my course, when it started last year in July, I had already developed my videos in December, outline of everything. It is always better that you plan your course. And as one of you was asking that how do we become a coordinator, there are various ways for that. I'll just go to that first and then I'll come back here. For example, here we have different coordinators, AICT, CEC, IGNOU, etc. Suppose for undergraduate program, you want to develop one MOOCs program, and for that you have to submit a proposal to them. I have not submitted to here, but I have submitted to NITTR Chennai, which was accepted. But normally, you go to that particular national coordinator, you go to their site. For example, we have this Consortium for Educational Communication, CEC New Delhi. These are mainly for undergraduates. So you can go to their website, and there you have this option. I have not explored it. Let me just see, because once I went through them, then there was one option here of submit proposal, submit MOOCs proposal. Maybe right now it is not open, so you have to, from time to time, you have to go to the particular website, or you can contact them also. This was you can contact them also, that when are the proposal which are going to start. So accordingly, you have to submit a proposal to the particular national coordinator. So you can contact them, you can ask them, because earlier I remember in CEC there was one tab directly in their website itself. Maybe they have disabled it right now, and they will open it up whenever just like proposals are open. So you can just contact them. In my case, my national coordinator earlier, the first course, which was Arpit course, the national coordinator was AICTE. So we had sent that proposal directly to AICTE, which was accepted. And in this case, the PLC and microcontroller, my national coordinator is NITTR. So you have to submit one proposal, and what will happen in that proposal is, where is Swayam? Yeah. You have to, in the proposal, they have a particular format. You have to tell about the course. For example, this particular information I have given. Then you have to give the biography, brief biodata of the of yourself, in case you want to become the coordinator. Then you have to give the objectives. You have to tell week wise what all you are going to study, what are the books and references which will be the participants will be going through. And the most important part is this 3 minutes video. This 3 minutes video is a kind of your showcase to the national coordinator. It should be very nicely built, so that through this video, because these other things are, of course, they are also important, but this 3 to 4 minutes video is like your showcase, in which you have to tell the national coordinator what all my contents will be, as well as why this course should be taken up by the students. So I can show you this video first, and in case there are some participants who might be having difficulty in understanding Hindi, I have another video also with me, in which that was on, I think, big data analytics for smart grid, in which I have given the 3-minute video for that particular course. So let me just, okay, before you watch this, let me just ask my participants, are you all comfortable with Hindi, or should I show you some other video? Because I think there are some participants who are from only English. Then I'll show you, because this course, as I told you, that is PLC and microcontroller in Hindi. So naturally the video was also made in Hindi. But let me just open another video, which was of my previous course. That was on big data analytics for smart grid.
The transition of power grid to smart grid around the world is characterized with larger data sets being generated at an unprecedented rate. Smart grids incorporate all sorts of innovations in measurement, control, communication, and information sciences to effectively control power systems. At the same time, advanced metering infrastructure and measuring equipment such as smart meters and phasor measurement units are being massively employed to collect electrical as well as non-electrical data. This big data contains huge amount of information. Now, the most pertinent question today is how to handle this huge amount of data. Let us see one such scenario.
Such a huge amount of data. Where is it coming from? How will we manage this?
With the fast development of digital technology and cloud computing, more and more data is being collected through digital equipment, sensors, as well as human activities and communications. The collected data is mounted at an exponential rate, and the complexity of this data is increasing day by day. For example, according to a research, with a sampling rate of 4 times per hour, about 1 million smart meters installed across the smart grid will produce approximately 3000 terabytes of data. Keeping this in view, I'm here to introduce a course on Big Data Analytics for Smart Grid. If you have a background in computer science, electrical or electronics engineering and have a zeal to learn Python as a tool for big data analytics, then this course is for you. Professor Maitri Datta, we know that data analytics is a multidisciplinary area where a lot of research is going on. Especially in smart grid, a lot of data is generated through smart sensors and intelligent devices. So can you give an insight about what type of algorithms are involved in this?
Well, there are plenty of options to analyze the data which are collected from smart grid and which are used to predict pricing as well as the energy consumption in future. Most popular algorithms are machine learning and deep learning algorithms. In machine learning algorithms, mostly we use the Naive-Bayes algorithm, k-nearest neighbor algorithm, as well as some regression analysis techniques such as linear regression, logistic regression, and as well as the random forest regression method. Among deep learning algorithms, mostly we use the deep convolution neural network, deep Boltzmann neural network, deep belief network, and for time series data, we use the LSTM method, that is long short-term memory algorithm.
Oh, that's interesting. So what are the resources which are required for implementing this?
Deep learning is all about the high-level computation, and that's why it requires a large computational part. Mostly we use the special GPUs for computational purposes, but you can also hire sometime cloud for computational purposes also.
Okay. Keeping all these factors in mind, the modules of Big Data Analytics for Smart Grid are designed as follows. Need of data analytics in Smart Grid, intelligent data collection devices in Smart Grid, data science pertaining to Smart Grid, tools for Big Data Analytics, conventional machine learning algorithms for data analytics, deep learning algorithm for data analytics, advanced machine learning algorithms for data analytics, and some case studies for big data analytics for smart grid.
This training follows more practical oriented approach for teaching advanced subjects such as big data analytics. It uses open source software Python for demonstration. The course is organized in collaboration with eminent industries such as Opalati and IBM for solving real-time problems.
The machinery and sensors are generating more data than ever before. Who controls that data will ultimately determine the winners and losers in the new big data economy. So what are you waiting for? Come and explore the world of big data analytics in Smart Grid.
I hope you enjoyed this video. So you see what was the main thing which is important to be noticed in that. It started with the importance of why big data analytics for smart grid should be learned. So I started with a background, and preferably the shooting was held in a lab, which demonstrates more about like the contents. And then it was told that and after that, we took a case study. We actually went to the SCADA in Chandigarh. That video wherein you saw me standing with my colleague, and then we were seeing the data. So much of data is there. What we should do about that? And that was actually we took permission and we went to an actually SCADA center wherein the data was coming, the real-time power system data was coming. So you see all those things, na? And then I also had a kind of interview incorporated in the video with big data analytics. Some machine learning parts are also there. So power system, going from power system to interviewing Professor Maitri Datta about the importance of like machine learning algorithms, etc. And finally telling about, okay, this is the context, why I want to make this particular MOOCs, and then all 8 modules, they were told in the video itself that these topics are covered. And then finally you have to tell them that if you have a background in this particular thing, then you can come and join this course. So this is how that 3-minute video, it is very important, which should be made, and it is also a part of the proposal which you want to submit as a coordinator in case you want to become the coordinator. This is about the course. About 1090 learners have enrolled to this. This is the 3-minute introductory. This is known as introductory video. So this is already there. This is an ongoing course which is 8 weeks duration. There are 3 credit points. Okay, so this is like a 3 credit course. I told you in the beginning that SWAYAM releases the list which I showed you earlier. So this course is also there in the course, and recently the enrollments have ended on 31st of August. The course had started on 15th of July and it ends on 31st of July. The exam will be held on 7th of December. So all these information are given to the students beforehand only, that your exam will be on 7th of December and all those things. And this is the course layout, week-wise course layout, the books and references, again instructor biodata, course certificate. They have given all the details here, that otherwise course enrollment and learning is free. In case you want to learn, it is free. However, to obtain a certificate, a learner must register and take the proctored exam in person at one of the designated exam centers. Normally, I think it is now held at home only, because when I gave those 8 modules, I gave the exams at home only, but maybe some of the courses might be at the designated exam centers. Registration URL will be announced by NTA once the registration form is available. These are shared with all the participants. And in order to receive the certification, you have to complete the online registration, pay the examination fee. It is 1,000 rupees examination fee. And time to time updates are given about this. And about the grading policy, as you were asking me about the assessment, internal assignment, these are nothing but the quizzes. This accounts for 30% of the final grade and is calculated based on the average of the best 3 assignments. For example, I have given my participants 6 assignments or 5 assignments. So it automatically takes the best 3 and it calculates the average and accordingly calculates the 30% of the weightage of the final. And final proctored exam score is an MCQ based, multiple choice question based proctored exam. Our score is 100 and 70% of the weightage of this final proctored exam is then taken as the final score is the sum of both of these. And what is the eligibility for the certification? One must have at least 10 out of 30 and exam score of at least 30 out of 70. So if one of the criteria is not met, you will not get the certificate. Even, okay, now they've already done that. This is what I was telling you now. Earlier, what used to happen is that the students, they ignored this internal assessment. Okay, we will get the 70% marks and we will get the certificate. No. Now, both of them, in internal, you have to get at least 10 marks out of 30. And in external, you have to get at least 30 out of 70 and total 40 out of 100. Earlier, only this 40 out of 100 was required. And this certificate is already, it comes in our profile, it comes. So you need not need not worry about that. Okay, let me just show you the dashboard of the course, how it looks like. Like this is how it appears to me, but to the participants, these are not all weeks as week, but now these days, week 7 is going on and week 8 is still pending. So how as a coordinator I go here, there is a course dashboard. This I'm showing you, this is visible only to the course coordinator. The participants, they will not be getting this course dashboard, but because I am the coordinator, so I can show you this. So herein I can add the unit, I can change their availability. So all these I have already added before the course starts. So that is why it is showing. Otherwise, you can add unit wise, you can add lesson, assessment. All these things, the options are here. And because earlier with the availability is private, as you can see in the 8th week also it is private, but because others have already started, so here it is showing course, etc. So in case I want to make it public, I want to publish a particular availability of a particular. So I will go to publish, availability, and then content. These I have already, because course is going on, so I have already done that. Suppose this quiz, I'll not do it, but suppose this quiz, I want to make it available to the participants. I will go here, I will make it public, and then I will do save. So automatically this particular quiz will be open to the participants. So, and accordingly, there are a lot of other things, like for example, create. In the create, I have to announce something to the participant. So let me go to create announcements. These are the announcements which I time to time tell the participants. So I can add an announcement here. So title is regarding, let's say I send this regarding quiz 1, announcement week, let's say week 7. So I'll just write here, dear participants, and all those things I will write here. If I want to send the email also, because it might not be possible that the participants are coming here and checking. If I want to send this announcement as an email, I will send an email. What is this journal announcement? What is the content? It is to content release. And then I will do save. So automatically it will, otherwise I'll do delete. So this is how the platform looks to the coordinator. So this is all about the Swayam platform, how it looks like to a participant, how it looks like to a coordinator. In case you want to become a MOOCs coordinator, then there are various national coordinators. You can just contact them, and you can submit a proposal whenever the proposal is open, because in Swayam platform, it comes twice a year, semester wise. For example, this PLCM microcontroller is being conducted in the July semester. Similarly, another will start in December. So twice these courses are announced by the Swayam. So you can contact the course coordinator depending upon you want to conduct it for which particular clientele. Accordingly, you can then decide upon the course and you can become a course coordinator. It has to be accepted by the coordinator first.
Madam, what about the duration, madam?
Pardon?
What about the duration of the course? Who decides?
Duration, it
Only the
depends upon
coordinator?
you. Yeah,
okay.
It depends upon you. For example, if it's an 8-week course, it might be 2-credit course. Suppose you want to make a 4-credit course. Once in the year 2018, I made a course on real-time power system analysis and smart grid. It was a 16 weeks course. So accordingly, its credits were 4 credits. So it depends upon
minimum
you.
Duration? Minimum duration?
I think it
4
must be 4 weeks.
4 weeks?
At least 2 credits, na? I had kept last 15 minutes for interaction with all of you. And I tried my level best that in this particular session, I show you the actual platform, both from a participant point of view, both as a coordinator point of view. Because many of you must be going through these MOOCs courses for your CAS as well. Because it's now, according to the latest AICTE regulations, these courses, MOOCs courses, they are a part of your CAS also, career advancement.
Yeah, it become mandatory.
Yeah, it has become mandatory. Yes. So that was main aim of this session, to make you aware of what exactly MOOCs is, how as a coordinator, how as a participant you can enroll in it, what will be expected from the course, and in case you want to become a coordinator, then how you can become a coordinator. And then there are some open these platform also, wherein you can develop a MOOCs of your own. But then depends upon what is the purpose, whether you want to make your course, MOOCs course, as a part of Swayam platform, or else I will just demonstrate to you. There is another. Let me just open it. It is www.edunext. Although I have not used it, because my all courses were on Swayam platform only, but we have various, let me just share it with you. open learning management systems wherein you can develop your courses. For example, this edu next.co. Herein you can go and you can develop your own MOOCs. So they have like cloud subscription. In case it's free, the free is, I think, for first it has a limitation of 50 participants only, and then they have those packages and all. Then you have to sign up here. It will ask you what is your primary goal with the subscription. Then you can say to deliver online courses. And but I have not used this platform, but you can just try this, and just to begin with your MOOCs, you can this, like, what type of organization, you can say individual initiative. So LMS Studio. What is the purpose of your initiative in terms of online learning? To deliver online course for free, or in case you want to keep some charges for this, you can accordingly select at a price or something like that. How many monthly active users are you estimating? Maybe around 1 to 100. What is the time frame for your learning? As soon as possible. Choose your course content. I plan to develop. I mean, this kind of things. Then initiative name, URL, English, etc. So you have to first create an account here.
Madam, what is the website? edu.nest.co.
I'll type it. I will type it in the chat box.
Yes,
It is www.edunext.co. So you can just explore this platform also for making your own MOOCs.
Madam, what are the participating institutes in SWAYAM portal? You said NITTR, IGNO, and what are those participating institutes in SWAYAM?
Which participating institutes are you talking of, sir?
I'm asking. I'm, for example, registered one course in NPT, and the instructor is from
So your
IIT
voice is breaking. Can you?
Kharagpur. So, I think I'm some network issue, madam. Okay.
So can you please repeat your question?
Madam, I asked in SWAYAM portal, what are the participating institutes who are delivering this kind of lectures and all? You said NITTR, IGNO, something you read out on list, madam, with institutes.
Okay. Yeah.
What are those institutes?
These are not the participating institute. These are the national coordinators. They select the MOOCs. For example, my earlier course, which I just showed you, Big Data Analytics for Smart Grid, the national coordinator was AICTE. I had sent my proposal to AICTE because that ARPIT scheme was a scheme of AICTE. So I had sent my proposal to them. This particular course on PLC and microcontroller in Hindi, I had sent my proposal to NITTR. So when you go to SWAYAM platform, I'll just show you. So when you go to this SWAYAM platform, therein you will see National Coordinator tab. Here, they are showing all the 10 coordinators. This AICTE, CEC, IGNO, IIMB, INI, NCRT, NIOS, NITTR, NPTEL, UGC. So you can just go individually to them. They're there. So therein they have given all informations. So they have given the course catalog, contact details also, email, mobile number. You can just contact them in case you have any query, content related issue, examination certification related issues, total number of courses, students enrolled 75,000. As a coordinator, they have given 40 courses. So even for all, like, you can contact them. All the information of the national coordinators, they are given there.
It is like quiz or what, madam? That's what my doubt is. For example, in NPTEL courses, yeah.
Yeah, normally we have a quiz in the end. There is a quiz which is given to all the participants. It normally helps because
Yeah.
she's the main course coordinator for this course, so she might have planned something for the course evaluation. Normally,
Okay.
it is based upon that quiz only.